Hi everybody, it's me, Raina. It's I don't know what day it is. The 10th. Anyway, I did have a vision about summer um a couple days ago, and I was kind of like rehashing it over in my mind to try to figure out what it meant. And I do feel in the search that they just did that they did find something. And a couple of people have said that they found they heard on the scanners or something, the police scanners, they somehow the ham radio operators got in to the police scanners, and they heard that they found where somebody might have hit a body and then moved it. um I don't know. I just know where I saw that she was, and it would have been very, very hard. My dog. um Very hard to get a body out of where I saw that she was. But anyway, I had a vision, and I have a lot of visions. I don't post them all, and I have had some about what's going on in the tidal wave dreams I had, or visions I had. That was what's going on now in Ukraine. That was that's pretty obvious that it's really, really bad. And some people say we're at war, some people say we're not, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so I was sitting in the summer vision. It took me a little while to figure this out, but anyway, I was sitting across the table, and it was one of those tables that go with the folding chairs. So it was like in an auditorium type situation. I was sitting across the table from my ex sister in law and my ex brother in law. And he was further down on the table, and he was kind of kneeling away from her. They were across from me. And he had his hands on the table, like pushing away from her. And he was watching her intently. And she was like on the table, she had her hands in front of her. And she was telling me something very, very intently. And she started to go, like somebody would have said go, and she started talking, and she had her eyes closed, like you could see her eyelashes, and they were really, really like a yellow color, like a not even a pretty blonde, they were just like yellow. And I thought that was kind of strange. And she was talking, and she would just have her hands in front of her, like she was trying to get it exactly right, the way she wanted to say it. And she continued talking, and he was just my brother-in-law, who was actually her brother in reality, but in this vision, it was her brother, her husband. So, but they were connected somehow, and he just kind of stared at her. He looked really scared and what she was going to say, but he didn't have the capacity somehow to say anything. So he was just like off, leaning on his chair, and he had his hands like towards her. And she was just going on and on and on. And she said, and we're getting this divorce, and she and him, and we're going to be just fine. And everything's like planned out. Like she had everything planned out. Everything was like perfect, you know. And she's going on and on. And our daughter, my daughter Bella, who that's her real daughter's name, but you don't know her name anyway. So is going to be just fine, and everything's going to be fine. And she just kept, like, she was kind of trying to convince herself that everything was going to be fine. And he didn't have anything to say because he was off to the side, and for some reason he couldn't say anything. So I kind of was taken around the side of her a little bit, and I saw her back, and her back was completely deformed. It was like this big hump in her back. And her face was kind of deformed too. Like she had a real wide head at the front and those yellow eyelashes. Like she was deformed looking. And and she just kept talking on and on about everybody's gonna be all right. And it's just, and I was just looking at her, and I was like, huh? And I looked at him, and he was just had his eyes like glaring on her, like, what's she gonna say next? And he looked panicky. And finally she stopped, and she's like, I'm done. And she looked at me, and I leaned back in my chair and I said, well, well, you, like, in other words, you made it sound like everything's really fine and everything's great. So I said, so why are you getting a divorce? And all of a sudden, she just, the look on her face, like, and she turned to him and he turned to her, and they both had their hands on their knees, like sideways to me. And her whole face like fell, like she burst out in tears. And he was like the same way. Like I had hit this nerve, and it was like a house of cards that just fell. Like her whole emotional, there was all a facade. It was all a show. It was not, it was, she was trying to convince me and herself and everybody else. But when I asked that question, she fell apart. She completely lost it. She fell apart. She crumbled. And I said, and then I thought in my mind, oh my God, maybe somebody had an affair. And this is a lot deeper than I thought. And maybe I shouldn't have said that. But then again, she was offering me the information. She was, you know, saying it to me. I didn't ask. I didn't even know anything. She was just suddenly sitting across from the table from me. So then that was the end of the vision. And I really feel that they've found Summer, and she was buried with her dog. I do believe they found her, and other people have said the same thing. And from what I've seen, they've found her. They just they haven't notified the public because they have to figure it out. But I don't believe Summer had any dental work done in her life, and they would have to get DNA another way. Um, Even though maybe her clothes are still intact or whatever, um, or maybe the rain scattered what was left. Scattered. They went through the well and somehow got whatever. But I believe that woman across the table, this is how it is. This is, what happened. This was Candus. And the guy that was sitting next to her that couldn't speak, because I think that was Don, and he can't speak. He just looked at her like, he was so nervous and like, well, what is she going to say next? And he was like kind of pulling away from her, but he couldn't completely. So he had his hands up like to protect himself. And she didn't open her eyes. She had her eyes closed, which means not wanting to deal with reality when you have your eyes closed in a vision or a dream or something. And the fact that she was deformed meant there was something really wrong. And she didn't want people to see it because I was taken kind of around the back to see her. And I saw her whole back was deformed. It was like hunched back. And she didn't want people to see that. So she doesn't want people to know what really is going on, what really happened, obviously. And she had it all down to like this big long blah, 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 speech. And she was trying to convince herself as much as she was trying to convince me. And she didn't have to try to convince me. It was not about Summer in the vision. It was just about their divorce. And when she got all through with it and went all through this, I just was like, well, if everything is just fine and dandy, why is this happening? And she cracked. She totally, completely fell apart and cracked. I believe she's going to crack. Yes. She'll be the one to cave in. And I think she's on the verge of cracking because she doesn't have her Donnie. She's losing a lot of support. She's kind of going insane. It was a weird kind of thing. I think the sheriff would just have to bring her in and ask her a few questions, and she would crack. I believe Sheriff Lawson. I think they may have been a little slow on the investigation at the beginning, and I think they brought other people in, like the West children, the little boys. They brought the parents in without a body, but I know she's on that property, and of all the things that she's told me over the last few weeks, I believe that was the investigation where they found her, or part, her remains, part of her remains, and I think she's gonna crack, because it was like she was trying to shove all this information to convince me and her, and to get it all completely right by shutting her eyes and like remembering exactly what she was going to say, and she was totally tense, and he was looking at her like, just don't say the wrong thing, but he couldn't speak because he can't speak, he's in jail. So something's about to give, and I do believe they have the remains. I heard the name of a coroner's name in one of my other visions, and that's what I think. I think they're going to bring her in, and she's going to crack. She's not going to crack to her friends or to YouTube, because that doesn't mean anything. It's not an official. They're going to have enough evidence to bring her in and question her, and she's going to completely crack. And so that's all I have to say, and for now, and you know, that's all we can hope for, because I feel like we're like this close, and we've been this close for so long. And I really think that Michael, I was about to say Anthony, is with a family named Anthony. I turned my information in, and I'd like to get this through to Brandy. I left my email address on her page, one of her pages, even though it was somebody else's comment. Um, I don't want to interfere, but I really feel that they could check this out. I know they check out all leads and everything, but anyway, we'll just have to see. Because I don't know why the Anthony keeps coming up after his name, and that he's safe, and that he is alive, and he's being cared for by another family. And anyway, so that's all I have to say, and I keep you posted. And so I wish you well, and everybody stay safe. Stay take your vitamin C, and drink your vitamin C, and drink your turmeric tea with honey. And I love you. I'll see you soon.